Hi folks, it's John from lastchanceautorestore.com. I'd like to share with you another update. This, believe it or not, is the 1932 Ford Hot Rod. In an earlier video, it looked completely different than what it is now. If you recall, we had the engine, all the dry fitting was at a stage where it was all set up and we liked how everything had fit. So since then, lots has taken place. We've removed the radiator, all the front end, the engine and transmission, the drive shaft, the rear end, basically lifted the body off, took all the components off, stripped it all down to the bare frame. And then once we had the bare frame, it just had like a shipping primer on it, or maybe some trim clad, or I'm not really sure what the product was, but the frame didn't look very nice at all. So what we did is we sanded it all down. We've got a special commercial grade or industrial grade two-part epoxy. So we sealed the whole frame with a two-part epoxy, and then when the epoxy cured, then we have this beautiful top coat high gloss black. The lighting, I apologize, isn't very nice in here. It's kind of in a shadow over against the wall, but we're really happy the way it turned out. We did basically a full 360. So we had it on stands, we got everything all ready, and then we rotated it or flipped it around to make sure that every nook and cranny has this beautiful paint finish. So when this is at a car show, if you can imagine, if the client wants to put mirrors underneath, the complete bottom looks exactly like this mirror finish on the top. So this is a custom-made chassis. We did not make this chassis. It's the way the car came. And we have this beautiful 4-link suspension. So basically, before I show you the detail there, this is basically what everything looked like before. So this is the front, these are the front rotors off of the 32 Hot Rod. So someone's just basically aerosol canned the front with a flat black. It's already chipped and marred. And then you've got a bunch of rust around the unfinished part of the rotor. So the rear rotors looked very similar to that, and we want everything to look like new or show quality, so you can see the difference here. So now we're at the rear differential. They basically, the guys and gal removed all the components from it, completely disassembled everything. The rotors were off. These were degreased, sanded, and prepped. You can see there's some dust on them right now. So we prepped everything, and you can see we now have this beautiful red paint. So this is vermilion red. This is a base coat, clear coat paint finish on the center and this hub assembly, and then the same thing on the rear diff. So that this was all degreased and cleaned, and then once it was all cleaned up, it received a two-part epoxy to seal the metal, because this is just mild steel originally. With these lower brackets that were welded to the housing, so these lower pieces down here. And then once they were epoxied and cured, then they were primed, and then this has 3 coats or 4, I believe it's 4 coats of this Ford vermilion red paint code, and then it's got, I think, 3 coats of a clear coat, high gloss clear over top. So then once that was all cured, then the guys started the reassembly. So you can see we've got the rim and tire on the far side, which would be the driver's side. A lot of the chrome features here and bushings. We've put new bushings in, and we've cleaned up and polished all of these chrome parts. So the lower sections, the longer sections of the 4-link, these are all polished and new bushings with upgraded bushings. Same thing on the top. And then here with all of these components with the brakes, they were completely disassembled, and these are all powder coated, and I'll show you on the table once we get over there. So these calipers were completely pulled apart. These brackets and the main housing, if the camera person come a little bit closer, so there's a large plate that's bolted around the diff, and it comes around, so it mounts the whole caliper. So that was sandblasted and powder coated black. So this is like a chassis black or satin. Some people would call it semi-gloss compared to a high gloss on the frame. So every one of these individual pieces were all media blasted, cleaned, gassed off, and then powder coated, and we do all the powder coating here in-house. So all the powder coating was done on the brackets, and then the calipers themselves were powder coated red. You'll notice the shading is a little bit different, and that's intentional, because when we have the wheels on, you're going to see a little bit of the caliper, and we just wanted to feature the calipers being a little bit different color. From the back though, you can see how nice this is with the rear diff being red. The body of the car is going to be that exact same color. So I really like that contrast with the rear diff and the hub being exactly the same color as the body against the black. Pardon me. So that's everything for the rear, and then we'll be putting that rear wheel back on, and we've done lots of work on the front components. So you can see here we've got a lot of items laid out here. So we have our Lucky 7 front beam, and most of the Lucky 7 components are chrome plated. There's a difference in the quality or the caliber of some of the finish on these, however. So we had an issue with these two front components. These are also Lucky 7, but they were badly pitted. So instead of replacing these, it would be costly for a client. What we decided to do, the rust had a bunch of like pimples and stuff on it. So we basically used an air tool and polished and smoothed out or eliminated all of the pimples or rust components on it. Then we media blasted the coating of the chrome, and it came off very, very easy on these components. We were back to the normal bare metal. And then what we did is we powder coated them that same satin black that we have the brackets on the rear calipers. So they turned out quite nice. You can see, you still see the logo, the Lucky 7 stamping in there. So this is a cross between a satin and a semi-gloss, but extremely durable because it's powder coated. It's baked in an oven at 385 degrees. So we've powder coated those items that were quite rusty, and then we polished all of these components. So we've got, our tie rods and all of our bracketry and our mounting points for our shocks. So they're all done and polished. And then the front suspension, the big leaf spring, you can see we've disassembled it. It's 4 leaves. This is going to be our big guy here. And so same idea. We had issues with a lot of rust and pitting. So the quality or the caliber of the chrome plating wasn't very nice. So basically I didn't want to add to the cost of this build. So the best thing for us to do, same idea with these components. We polished off all of the rusted sections, and then we media blasted in a commercial grade cabinet blaster here in-house. And then we basically put all of these in an oven, gassed them off, powder coated them, and this color will match the vermilion red on the bottom chassis. Now some people will say, why would you do that red, that front leaf spring? This is just more of an accent color. You're not going to see very much of the leaf spring once everything's installed, because you've got the front beam, the lower part of the radiator section. So this is basically just more of a feature to give us a little bit of color in the front instead of having everything just the boring little black. So we did each one of these leaf springs individually. So on the, this is the other section or the top of the leaf spring. And you can see how nice, hopefully it'll show up in the camera. The caliber, the quality of the powder coating I think is really, really nice. And that's straight out of the gun. We haven't done any polishing or anything on it. So hard to believe. You can see this backside is a little bit rough cast. This is going to receive grease and lubricant between each leaf. So that's why it looks a little bit rough on this side. But on the side and all the edges, you can see how they're basically perfect all the way around. So that's where we concentrated on the media blasting and the sanding to make sure everything turns out to a show quality type of look. So we have the leaf springs done. And then when we're talking about the calipers on the rear, these are the front calipers to match. So these were just a really rough cast, and they were very, very rusty. They were just an unprotected steel. So basically what we've done, the guys were really careful. Pardon me, we took everything, or the guys took everything all apart. We masked inside here the crucial areas where the piston works, and you can see how nice it is. Hopefully it'll show up in the camera. How nice the quality is. The shine is a high gloss shine. They match exactly to the front or to the rear calipers. So they look quite nice, I think. And then we have our mounting points. These were unfinished mounting points for the caliper. So this is going to fasten to the hub assembly, and then the calipers will get bolted on to this end. So these are all powder coated, the semi-gloss once again. So now basically we have everything kind of laid out. There was some issues with whoever pre-assembled this frame before. They basically had JB weld, and they damaged the seal, the bearing, and the spacer. And the spacer's jammed in here. So what we're going to end up doing is we've ordered the new parts that we require. We've polished the hub, a little bit more polishing to go. And then the kingpins are all brand new with the new bushings. So what we'll do is we'll put this in our press. We'll remove this damaged spacer or sleeve. We'll polish this, and we have the proper inner and outer bearings, races, and new seal on order. So once they arrive, then we're basically going to reassemble the front end with all of these components to make it look exactly like it does in the back. So this is the 1932 Ford Hot Rod chassis. I thank you for watching. I'm John from lastchanceautorestore.com.